Check out my garden. So can you see where most of the fertilizer ended up, where I washed out my truck? It's right here where the corn, that is the tallest corn I have ever had this time of year. And it really speaks to how important it is to fertilize the soil really deeply early in the spring. Here you can see ground cherries. I didn't plant any of these ground cherries. These all just reseeded themselves from last year, which is like a lovely bounty. Over here I have onions. One thing that I would suggest at this time of year is when they go to flower like this, is you pinch the flowers off because you don't want it to put energy into the seed. You want to keep pushing down into the bulb. If you ever wondered how long it takes for a garden to get ahead of you, I would say 5 days. We went camping for 5 days and it is absolutely and completely insane how overgrown with weeds we have. If you remember me showing you how I was going to have it grow up this bed frame, and over there I have some cages, but there's the cucumbers going, and I also let those pumpkins and zucchinis grow right into the raspberry patch so that they can really spread out, and you can see they're huge at this point. Little squash that grew up my raspberry bush and should come. Any chance that I'm gonna get this, keep this one from the porcupines? Not much, but you know, there's always hope. So this time of year with tomatoes, you can see that there's a lot of them starting in there. The jobs right now is to try and keep them in their cages and to keep weeding underneath. If you like, you can fertilize at this point too. Fertilize tomatoes and peppers wouldn't hurt mid-season. Okay, so I talked about green manure and planting green manure, and this is buckwheat here, and down there is clover, and this actually takes nitrogen out of the air and fixes it to nodes at the edge of its roots. It will greatly improve the soil for next year. I'm going to come along with scissors tomorrow and pinch off all these flowers because I don't want it to go to seed, or it will be an impossible battle to try and get it back next year. But I will turn all this just underneath and leave it here to decompose into the soil. Something I find challenging this time of year is just keeping up. Look, after being away for a few days, like the beans are just so abundant. And if you leave them too long, they get really hard and really tough. So these will all have to be picked today. Okay, a few tips on herbs. This is completely ready right now, so you can just cut it back. When it comes to basil, you can cut it right down and it'll grow back, but you could also just pinch off the big leaves and then allow the smaller leaves to come back. This is eggplant over here. This here is cilantro, but it's actually better not to let it go to flower. So what I'm going to do later is I'm going to take a pair of scissors and just cut off the flower so it puts more effort into the leaves. This back here is thyme, which can also be dehydrated, and parsley. Some people hang it to dry, but I prefer to put it in a dehydrator because it dries faster and I find it stays greener and the flavor is stronger. In my earlier video, I said that I was going to experiment with having some tomatoes outside and some tomatoes in the greenhouse just to see the difference. Well, I'm going to take you inside and you can really see. I don't know if you can fully appreciate how big and bushy these tomatoes are. There are some plants there at the back that are probably 5 or 6 feet tall, and you can see back here some orange tomatoes already going. But this is my favorite part here. This is the growing up the bed frame. There's some cantaloupe starting right there. There's a couple more up there, and I'm gonna have tons of bloom here for cucamelons and cucumbers. You can see some tiny little cucamelons starting right there. And this, I'm going to put cheesecloth on it tomorrow and support it up because very soon it's going to be heavy and it's just going to drop right off if I don't get that in there. And you can see also the peppers, the heat-loving peppers, are doing absolutely amazing. The ones out in the garden are only just starting to flower. And over here I have an eggplant, which I'm really excited about. That's the flower there. I can't wait to see if I can actually get some in here.
Hi, this is my organic gardening tip of the day. I use a plastic flower pot and I submerge it into the ground and plant my squash nearby, and the water that I pour in there, I generally fill it up when it's really dry, and it feeds the root system from down below. And it seems to do really well. So far so good, and I have one tiny little zucchini coming, and I do this on my winter squash as well as zucchinis. Thanks so much. Pam Nelson here. Thanks. Bye.